We're going to get right into things. I would like to welcome Katrina as part of the California Energy Commission, Energy and Research Division. Katrina leads a team that develops technology, scale up, and outreach initiatives to accelerate a just transition to a clean energy future. She and her team oversee the CECs design build competitions to transform underserved neighborhoods into some of the most technology advanced clean energy communities in the world. Katrina is committed to bringing together diverse stakeholders to address the multifaceted challenges of achieving a regenerative society.
I'm off.
Great. Okay, so as Tom mentioned, I'll be presenting on the next EPIC challenge. So I know all of you are here to hear about that. It's really about reimagining an affordable mixed-use development in a carbon-constrained future. So looking towards decarbonization and really helping us to achieve those goals. And again, so I'm with the California Energy Commission Research and Development Division, and so I'll provide a brief overview of what the CEC is working on with our research and development, provide the brief introduction to the next EPIC challenge. You'll want to go to the pre-application workshop to learn more. This is just a light touch. And then I'll highlight some of the networking opportunities and additional opportunities to learn more about this program and CEC work. Okay, so CEC's research and development program is really about investing into clean technologies that can really help us achieve our policy goals. So we're driven by legislation. Our work is to help California achieve those goals as set forth, and we do that through various funding mechanisms. The first is the program that I primarily work on, and it's the Electric Program Investment Charge that comes out of funding from California's ratepayers, and it's focused on supporting them in reducing the greenhouse emissions associated with their electric use, and also help reduce the costs and use overall. We also have a natural gas research and development program, and this is focused now more towards decarbonization of our natural gas sector. So how do we reduce the use of fossil fuels, not only through efficiency, but also bringing in low carbon solutions and technologies such as hydrogen. So we're really looking to the future of that area with our natural gas program. We also have a food production investment program that supports our food production here in California. Obviously, that's a large part of our economy here in California, and we have those funds from California's Cap and Trade initiative. So we're happy to have that. It's been a very successful program to really help our food producers reduce the costs and energy use associated with their work. We also had a one-time $18 million fund to support low carbon fuels research and development. So the two policies I'd like to highlight today that really drive my work. One is SB 100. All of you are probably familiar, but this is really about achieving a clean energy future, achieving 100% clean energy by 2045. We're already well on our way, and I'm really hoping that California accelerates that change. We've seen us achieve similar goals on a much faster timeline. So I think we all know it's important, and we see this as an aggressive goal as compared to other places in the world, and we're happy to be leading the way on that. We also have our AB 523 EPIC investments, and so this focuses on supporting technology demonstration and deployment in disadvantaged and low-income communities. We recognize that research in under-resourced communities is a real necessary tool to help us to gain those lessons learned when you deploy technologies in communities that have lesser resources to implement on their own, or also, the costs are oftentimes cost prohibitive to bring those technologies there. So it's really important that we focus our investments in those communities. We also see our technologies have been really instrumental in supporting communities advance clean energy, and so that's one of our highlights of the work. And we've definitely gone above and beyond the 25%, 10%. And so EPIC oftentimes reaches above that. We also have investments that go into our tribal lands, and that's not we're not directed to do that by legislature, but we see that as an important part of our work as well. Thinking about how public funding really works to support the advancement of clean energy technologies. And I'm sure all of you are also very familiar with this valley of death that we see in the technology development pipeline. And so as technologies emerge out of the laboratory, funding tends to decline over time. And so the typical venture capital funding that works to support other software technologies that we've seen through other forms of innovation are not working in the same way that to support these hardware technologies that really have a longer timeline to commercialization. And so we see public funding and the EPIC program really working to support technologies overcome that valley of death. And so we've created, as part of that, within the office that I work for, which is the Energy Deployment and Market Facilitation Office, we've developed the Entrepreneurial Ecosystem. And so the entrepreneurial ecosystem is meant to carry technologies at each stage of this technology development pipeline. And so we've created programs at each stage, and we're still working on developing more and more supports as we go forward. So the first grant program, small grants with CalSeed, it's at that early stage, really coming out of the laboratory with the technology and really helping entrepreneurs to bring that to form a business and start to advance that technology towards commercialization. Then we have CalTestBed. This is one of our newest programs, fantastic program working with the University of California. We have 9 campuses participating, many labs, and also many of their labs, and also Lawrence Berkeley National Labs is part of that program. And that was a huge lift in just bringing together the various campuses towards one effort. And it was incredible to see the kickoff there. And we're really excited about that. We have the first cohort beginning their testing, and we're looking forward to see how that turns out. We also have our Bridge and Ramp programs. Bridge is another funding opportunity that helps carry forth. It's a larger amounts of funding. We just released one funding round. We have an upcoming funding round soon. And we also have our Ramp, and we also just recently released that solicitation. Ramp is focused on manufacturing of the technologies. Manufacturing within California, I think we see that as a big opportunity to support local development, local entrepreneurship, local economic development, bringing manufacturing back to California. And it also helps to reduce the costs around the manufacturing of these technologies. We have our innovation clusters. They are there to support entrepreneurs. So we have 4 innovation clusters throughout the state, and you can find them on Empower Innovation. There are partners on Empower Innovation, and Empower Innovation is really the link that connects all of these entrepreneurs to a vast network of other interested stakeholders in clean tech development. So I'll highlight Empower Innovation. If you haven't been there, you should definitely go to that platform. It's our online networking platform, and there you can connect to other stakeholders and also learn about other funding opportunities, not just the CECs, but also beyond. So one of the mechanisms that we've created to support technology demonstration are these design build competitions. So essentially it's a 2-stage process where we look to teams to really create a design around a certain function, and then we award them and select the next stage of projects to go ahead and build those designs. So our first design build competition was launched in 2016, and it focused on advanced energy communities. On the right, you see the Oakland Eco Block, sort of the early stage schematics of what that project would look like. And essentially, the idea of the advanced energy communities is bringing together the most advanced technologies that we could see as the future of our electric system at a community scale. So 4 teams were selected for the build stage. Again, the Oakland Eco Block was one of those. We also have the city of Richmond, Lancaster, and Bassett Avocado Heights, which is a community in East Los Angeles, and they're doing fantastic work. If you haven't learned about them, you can just Google those advanced energy communities and you'll find their pages and learn more about what each of those projects is doing. But I'm really here to talk about today our next design build challenge. And this next design build challenge is looking to develop solutions to address some of our most pressing challenges. And obviously new challenges have arisen since this concept came to be, but I think these are the two primary areas that we think that the California Energy Commission can really work to support. One is obviously climate adaptation, and I'll just start there. So we have our California wildfires, and I don't know if any of you were impacted last year, but I certainly was. The California wildfires have not only led to people being displaced, but also we have the other side effects of public safety power shutoffs. And then we also have you know, the idea that we're worsening climate wildfires as we continue to use fossil fuels in the way that we're doing so. So the CEC has some significant work to do in supporting California reduce its risks associated with wildfire. We also have the housing crisis. And so it's a little bit disconnected necessarily to the work that the CEC is doing, but if we can really reduce the costs of the living costs for people, reduce their electric bills. If we can create buildings at a lower cost to build, if we can bring in new technologies that support and support the building to act as a resource to the grid, potentially there's some revenue streams there that we haven't quite untapped. And so when we look to building the buildings of the future, we can help to reduce the cost, provide an asset to the people living there, enhance their well-being, reduce their commutes, all of those things when we begin to really plan and build accordingly. And we all know what smart planning, smart building looks like. We all have a dream of what the world could be. And I think that's part of the dream that we're dreaming with the Next Epic Challenge. So when we think about the Next Epic Challenge, we're really asking the question of teams, can we design and build mid-rise mixed-use development that is affordable, equitable, climate resilient, cost competitive, and emissions free? That's quite a lot to do within one solicitation, but we're trying. So we really are looking to California's entrepreneurs, designers, architects, communities, community-based organizations, local governments to really help us reimagine what our future can look like. And so some of those pathways that we've identified and we're working to build within this solicitation and how we framed it are really about deploying the next generation of energy technologies. So we don't want to see the same technologies kind of being deployed, commercial technologies. We really want this to be an opportunity to leverage those advanced cutting edge technologies that are not quite commercial yet, right? So we want to be on the cutting edge with this. So those projects that can provide those advanced energy technologies and leverage this opportunity to demonstrate those technologies, that's really going to be the highlight. We also want to leverage advanced planning, design, and construction practices. And so that's really that part about looking to the building to solve, accelerate the time to get a building in place, streamline the manufacturing process, incorporate materials that can support energy efficiency, all of those things, and thinking about also the workforce that goes behind that. And so that's another key element of this project. We also are looking to unlock the value streams from grid interactive buildings. And so I talked a little bit about that, but the grid interactive building is really the building that can not only support its residents, provide that reliability necessary when we don't have the grid available, potentially if we're having those public safety power shutoffs, but also being able to support the grid as well. I think we saw some blackouts over the summer, and so we're really looking to what Tom's saying, the DER technologies that will really help us to support that, support the infrastructure that we have. And so buildings are a key asset. They could be like a battery for us, really, for the grid and how we operate it. So they're that added capacity if we're using them wisely. Then we also want to make sure that we're improving community engagement around this building. And so I don't want a team that's, we don't want a team that's just thinking about just the technologies. We want the team to thinking about the place where that building is going to go and the people to which that building is going to serve. So the community is a key element in really creating that narrative around the building and giving that building its culture and its purpose within that community. And so that gets into how are you going to use that mixed use space? What are the technologies you're going to bring into that space? Also thinking about, well, what's important to this community? What is it that the priorities of this community? Where are the gaps that we can help fill? And we also want to see that the technologies are again supporting, lowering costs for the community, potentially incorporating some of the transactive energy benefits that we've seen or we're looking to see in the future. So there's some opportunities there, and obviously as part of the CEC, we recognize that there are still some regulatory challenges around implementation of these technologies, but we are working to make those innovations ready to really drive legislation and regulation to help advance and create a space where these technologies can flourish. Part of that work comes out of the research projects that we do, showing what's possible. Okay, moving on. So really the application process, we have the concept application phase. And the concept application is going to be a 10-page abstract that project teams can submit early on. And so that's a pass-fail process. And so, but the idea is then to save, teams time and really get those concepts make those concepts really strong. We also have the full application, and that's more of the standard application process with the CEC. So if you've ever been involved in a CEC solicitation, it's that same kind of process, but we've done some shifting to the scoring to really be able to capture the key elements of this project through the scoring. We also have, and that'll, once you pass the full application and move into the design phase, 12 teams will be included in the design phase, and then at the end of the design phase, they'll generate deliverables as part of that project that will be used as part of the competition to advance to the build phase. We'll have a showcase event to highlight all of the projects, and it's really important to us that not only the projects that get funded are highlighted, but also the projects that were funded to do the design phase, because we saw some incredible innovation that happened at the design phase of our last advanced energy communities. And so the design we see as a very valuable process in itself and a very valuable resource to everyone. So we want to make sure all projects are really highlighted and those teams are recognized for their fantastic work. And then moving into the build phase, we'll have a few teams will be selected to move into the build phase. And then that's where more of the funding gets allocated. I'll talk about that. So we have 4 various groups throughout the state of California. So we're dividing it by region. And so we have the Bay Area region, we have Central Valley, Northern California, we have the Los Angeles region, Imperial Valley, Inland Empire, and San Diego County as group 4. One of the things I just want to highlight is that this is a higher density development, and so we are encouraging folks to really think about higher densities, and those will likely be more in transit-oriented developments. And so thinking about that when developing the design, there's more about that again in the solicitation. The design phase teams will be awarded $1 million. There'll be 3 design phase teams per region, and then of those 3 teams, one of them will advance to the build phase with up to $9 million. So everyone gets the $1 million. We have a table that really frames how you can get up to $9 million, but we're encouraging people to also place the buildings, if possible, within a disadvantaged low-income community. We also are encouraging them to be more increased housing units as part of the development, and that'll get you more funding. All right. So I talked a little bit about the evaluation criteria. So this is going to be evaluated in really 2 stages. So the concept application is 1, but we're going to be looking for this criteria throughout. So we have the full application. The whole scoring criteria was developed around this evaluation criteria. So we took the standard scoring criteria from EPIC and we reshaped it to include these elements. So those emerging energy technologies, thinking about the performance of the building, incorporating resiliency and safety as part of that. That also has to do with what are the vulnerabilities within that community. So looking to what are the climate adaptation strategies for that community are going to be really important as part of that. We have aesthetics and functionality. So making sure that this building is not only beautiful, but functional. We want people to want a building like this. So let's drive that forth by creating something really pleasing for many people that would want to live there. Incorporating those advanced construction practices to accelerate the timeline to construction. We're going to look towards construction readiness at the different stages, depending on where the teams are, obviously, but in each of the evaluations. And then the community and economic impact that I talked about. Are you looking towards really benefiting the local community for which this building is going to place, and really taking their feedback into consideration, and how are you going to be garnering that feedback. We are also looking to how is this building going to really transform the market. So we don't want a one-off building. We want something that people are going to be able to leverage and apply to other projects in the future. And then that customer interface. So how are residents going to be engaged in the building, and how are they interacting with this new type of building and community and resident. In forming this, I talked about it just a little bit earlier. I'm really excited about this also because this is also about innovation across different sectors. So we're not only focused on technology innovators here, we're also focused on transforming the collective knowledge of architectural firms, developers, in leveraging these technologies and implementing them into the design. So once you have them on board, they'll start thinking about these in future projects. We're also looking at partnerships with electric utilities and CECs. We've seen with our advanced energy communities that those partners are critical in making sure that these projects are successful. So making sure that they're being engaged. Also, local governments are the other sort of key element to this. They're the ones that are going to get the permits and help you move this through and think about these buildings in their communities in the future. And they're also a great asset to reaching their residents. Community-based organizations are the ones that are going to really help with that narrative and building the culture around that building and what it's served and used for. And so community-based organizations are also another key element to the team. And of course, we have the energy technology experts that are also, we've supported for a long time through the Energy Commission. And so we want those technology experts bringing in their technologies to these buildings. So I'm really, one of the things that I just love about this building is that sort of inter-stakeholder sort of cross-pollination that's happening. So fantastic opportunity for that. Schedule of key activities. So the solicitation was released in December. So mid-December of last year. It's been under scope and development for quite some time. Maybe you've heard about it in the past, but it took quite a long ways for us to get here. And I think we're pleased with how it's turned out. So we have our pre-application workshop next week. The deadline for written questions will be the day after. So January 21st, as Tom highlighted, then the written questions are shortly after. That's pretty standard, but the idea is that you've come in already prepared to ask those questions, submit them to us, so we can really move this timeline forward and get those questions and responses out so that people are ready to submit their concept applications by April 9th. I want to highlight one key event in between that timeline. We also have the Empower Innovation event I'll talk about in a minute. That's on January 28th. We see that as a part of this process as well. This is an opportunity to network among different stakeholders in your region. We also have the deadline to submit the full applications in July 2021. So that's in quite some time, but we recognize that this process is going to take some time to really bring together all of these different stakeholder groups in a project like this to make this happen. And then we have the deadline to submit materials for the build phase. So that's when the design phase ends in June 2023. So quite some time to complete the design phase. All right, so I just want to highlight once again, Empower Innovation. It's our online networking platform. There's an opportunity to go find a partner for this particular solicitation. And so if you're not a member already, go ahead and sign up yourself, sign up your organization, and you can click and really connect online with different people interested in this funding opportunity. And we have all different stakeholders on that platform. We also just wanted to highlight the platform has grown. It's only been 1 year in use, and it's bigger than our LinkedIn group. And we had over 1,800 members, over 500 organizations, and $1.4 billion in funding available for people. So that's quite a large number, and that's the funding is not only with the CEC but also nationally. And then looking to our January 28th event, this is the online networking event, developing sustainable affordable housing in California's communities. Please join that if you're interested in this funding opportunity, if you're interested in housing in general. All right, I know I'm close on time. So wanting to learn more, the pre-application workshop, just highlight it there, and then the solicitation information that Tom's linked in the chat. Okay, thank you, everyone.